Yes, hello, welcome to this week's Spotlight, in which we interview Doctor Who director, former Doctor Who director. He didn't just direct Doctor Who, Howard's Way, EastEnders, the whole works. We interview Michael Briant, so let's head on in and see what he has to say, huh?
This is the exciting bit.
What's exciting?
Well, seeing what's outside.
When prepping a multi-camera TV studio show, obviously you are given a blank copy of the script. Is that where it starts, and then you start marking up your script? And if so, what's the procedure there?
You start off with a plan which represents the studio totally accurately, and then you wire your cameras in there, the quantity of cameras that you've got. I mean, back in my day, you could have 5 cameras. You could have up to 5 cameras, and on the floor plan is the set, the set that you're going to photograph, or sets that you're going to photograph. So the first thing really is to sit down with the floor plan and look at the sets and decide where you can put the cameras around the sets in order to get the shots. At the same time, you're looking at the script and you are maneuvering, hopefully with good motivation, your actors around that set into positions where you can get the shots. Okay, with drama, the very first time I pick up the script and read it is the most important time of all, because it's the only time it's brand new. It's the only time when it's like taking photographs when you go somewhere. If you go somewhere, the only time to take a photograph where you go to is the first time you go there, because that's the first time you see it with a fresh eye. So the first time you read a script, I lock myself away and I just read the script, and the whole thing becomes a sort of story in my mind. It becomes a sort of picture story, and some things stand out as being vitally important, some things stand out as being a bit dull and boring, some things you then talk to a designer, and from the pictures you've had in your head from reading the script, you discuss with the designer the shape of the set that the scenes are going to happen in. You impose on the designer certain limitations as to how he lays out the set. That all sounds a bit sort of over the top, but it is actually the way it works. It's probably not an intellectual process. It's more an imaginative process, if you like. When he sends it to you, you probably want to adjust the positions of the furniture that he's put on it. And then you look at the script, and if it says, Harry comes in through the door, walks over to the armchair and throws himself in the armchair, that's a sort of given, isn't it?
Yeah.
So the best movement is when action is going to or from the camera. You're probably going to have the armchair placed somewhere towards one of the wings of the set, so that you can have the armchair in the foreground, the door in the background. So as Harry comes in through the door and walks across the set and sits in the armchair, he's walking towards camera. So that actually automatically gives you your first shot.
Yeah, and then presumably, you're going camera 1, maybe for the wide shot, and then camera 2, maybe the close up, and then if somebody else comes in, you cut to them on 3, maybe.
You've got to have sorted the set out so that there is a way of her getting from the door to behind the desk without you shooting off. The scenes develop themselves, but you try to give the actors an acting reason for doing whatever it is they're going to do.
If the drama in some ways is being dictated by the set, how does that affect things like blocking the actors, in the sense of, then if the actor doesn't want to sit in the chair, even though the script says to do that, he wants to go over and, I don't know, tap a pipe on the mantelpiece or something before he sits down on the chair, do they still have that option to do that? Can they still do that?
Actors are trained to do what the director wants or what the camera wants. That's in their training. An actor, you would have to give a good dramatic reason for wanting to do something from that which the director and the script requires, and then it would be up to the director to go, yeah, I can live with that. Yeah, that's a good idea. Yes, I think that adds to the scene. Or for the director to go, not sure.
I imagine that working with actors like, I mean, you cut your teeth, as it were, in the golden age of television, where multi-camera was pretty common in terms of television drama. But working on things like Howard's Way, EastEnders, and Doctor Who, of course, if an actor like John Pertwee or Tom Baker, for example, Tom Baker probably slightly more, wanted to change things, was that easy to cope with in terms of multi-camera?
I was doing Robots of Death with Tom Baker, and there was a scene in a corridor when he's with the captain of the space miner, and they're creeping down a corridor, and a robot comes. I said to Tom, you push the captain of the miner behind that pillar, and you run round behind that pillar there, and you hide. And Tom went, oh, Michael, that is so boring. It is so And I went, yeah, okay, Tom, well, how would you like to do it? And he said, well, what I would do is I would climb up the pillar, hang on the top of it, creep across the beam to the other one, and then come down the other side and drop my scarf around the robot's neck. Or alternatively, I'd just do what you said. Only one person can have an overall idea of how the scene is, okay? An actor is one part of the scene. Actors invariably have other people within the scene. So, in the end, the director is the arbitrator. The director, he is looking after all the people in the scene. He's the only person who really sees the scene in the entirety. Each actor sees the scene from his own point of view, and part of the director's job is not to spoil that point of view, because that's what the actor brings to it. It is to give the actor the freedom and the space to be able to do their interpretation of the character, which is what you're buying, unless you absolutely hate it, in which case you screwed up casting them. The actor is basically going to try and do it the way you tell him, you ask him to do it within that scene, which is not to say there will not be discussion and compromise and everything else.
I noticed that on particularly, you mentioned Robots of Death there. I actually went back and had a look at that, and I noticed that in a lot of the scenes of the Robots of Death, particularly in the first episode, you were starting a lot of the scenes very wide. And also in sort of when you were establishing a new set, you tended to like taking very high angle wide shots where they were moving. Is that one of the rules of multi-camera directing?
I was trying to use wide shots to say this is an enormous great space miner. It's a huge vehicle. It's a huge ship. We were trying something different. We were trying not to have shiny walls and materials that spaceships are normally made of. We were trying to do something different with the whole design thing. Classically, you maybe do start with a wide shot, but equally you can start with a big close-up of a pair of eyes and gently pull out to reveal more and more and more. I mean, the only thing with multi-camera that you have to be careful of, because multi-camera normally doesn't go, you normally shoot a scene, stop, move the cameras to the next set, and shoot another scene. The one thing you need to be aware of is what was your last shot at the end of the scene? Was it a close-up, or was it a wide shot, or a mid shot, or what was it? And what is your first shot at the beginning of the next scene, so that in your head it will cut.
I wanted to ask you a quick question as director to director, and especially working on something like science fiction. I used to direct a lot of children's drama, and some of the questions I got asked were very bizarre from the production crew. For example, one time a hair and makeup lady came to me and said, no, I'd really like to know how you want each person's hair doing in this scene, and can you tell me how you want the hairstyle, what sort of hairstyle? And I was a little bit taken aback, sort of going, I've no idea. And I noticed the hairstyles in in Robot to Death were very unusual. Was that your decision, or would you just have said something like, no, you go ahead and be creative? How did you cope with things like that?
If there was going to be a makeup or hair decision, I would normally expect to, if it was anything out of the ordinary, I would expect to be involved in it. And I have done productions. I did a production in Holland where they employed the top hair designer in the country to design the hair for all the leading artists. And I actually went to his salon and spent a very long, rather boring evening discussing every character so that he could decide from what I was telling him about each character how he would do the hair. As a drama director, I would normally expect it to be consulted, and certainly on Robots. What happened on Robots was I had a very talented designer called Ken Sharp, and it was I originally was going to do it all Romanesque. I was sort of saying, can we have it, let's make everyone wear Roman and Greek costumes. And Ken said, yeah, okay, that's anything except spacesuits, and Space 99, or the uniforms and all that awful space stuff that was happening. So we were going to do it. I was determined that we would, decor-wise, costume-wise, do it differently. My idea was Roman. Ken came up with Art Deco, and I went, yeah, okay. And he came round to my office with a load of Art Deco books from the library, and I looked at it and went, great, wonderful. I can see it. I can see the whole spaceship being decorated, a space miner being decorated in that way. I can see the costumes being exotic. I can see the makeup. That meant that the whole of that particular production went through the critical eye of Ken first.
What's the procedure of marking up a script? How do you go about doing that? And physically, what do you do?
Well, there are two lots of instructions in a director's script. There is the instructions of where you're moving the artists, and there are the camera shots. They go hand in hand. As you're moving the actor, you are, in your head, formulating the shot that you're going to put up. So you imagine the shot that you're going to put up. So you mark it in the script. Camera 3 from position A is picking up Harry and panning him right to sit. So, and in the script you write H, cross right, sit, armchair. A director would draw a straight line across the beginning of the first scene, and on that straight line he would put the camera 3, the position that it's in or from the floor plan, and he would put medium long shot door, Harry enters, pan him right to sit. That would all be in pencil. You would write it all in pencil because in the rehearsal room you would finesse the whole thing. In the rehearsal room you might decide to start on a shot. You might go, oh yeah, I don't know. So you might change the shot entirely. If you are kind to your assistant, to your PA, you start feeding her your camera script pages as you finalize them, so she can start typing them up.
And each camera gets their own different camera script with their own individual numbers on it. So they might have 1, 7, 9, 12.
Well, they get camera cards, which the assistant lady has typed out from the camera script.
Right.
That's Anna's job as well.
Yeah.
She sits down with the camera script and she takes camera 1 shots and she just writes camera 1, shot 2, and what it is in the camera script, and then shot 6, if that's his next shot, what it is in the camera script. So she types out those cards, and she has, obviously, if it's 5 cameras, she has to type out 5 sets of cards. A lot of work.
What about script changes? Are the directors allowed to make script changes?
No, in a word. But when the rehearsal script is printed, theoretically, you have agreed that script. You've gone, yep, I can live with that. I think that's okay. You can change things around a little bit, or you can add a line or whatever. But at the end of the day, that change has to be sent back to the producer's office and be agreed by the script editor.
Brilliant. Michael, that's it. Thank you very much indeed. I mean, you've really helped a lot of our students there, because there were all the big main sort of questions we had, and that was really, really brilliant. So thank you so much for being part of our show. Brilliant. Thank you.
Pleasure. Absolute pleasure.
Thank you, Michael. Well, there you go. That's it for today. I hope you enjoyed that little insight into multi-camera television directing, and hopefully we'll see you next time on Spotlight. Don't forget, hit the subscribe button, please, if you want to be informed about all. And of course, we're on Twitter at Spotlight1701. Do join us. And if you've got anything you want us to cover, remember, we can put the spotlight on literally anything. Do let us know. Thanks. Bye.